I didn't know that morning would begin with a story I'd carry for the rest of my life. It was just another Monday. The city was slowly waking up. School kids dragging backpacks, office workers chasing their first cup of coffee, and the streets carried that crisp scent of early spring. Maybe it was hope in the air. I was driving my son, Noah, to school, like I did every weekday. We pulled over at a small diner on the corner to grab him some breakfast: pancakes, a banana, and a small carton of milk. Noah, as always, couldn't sit still. While I was paying at the counter, he stared out the window with that curious look only kids have. Then he suddenly turned to me. "Dad, can I go outside for a minute?" I nodded, distracted. Through the window, I saw him cross the sidewalk and approach a bench. Sitting there was an old man, white-haired, wearing a worn-out military jacket, with a face carved by time and something deeper, maybe memory. In his hands, he held an old photograph, faded, black and white. He was just sitting there, staring at it. Noah walked up to him and said something I couldn't hear. Then he handed the man his milk, just like that. No hesitation, no big moment, just quiet kindness. The man looked confused at first. Then he looked at Noah and accepted the milk. He didn't say anything, just stared at my son like the world had stopped turning for a moment. Noah came back a minute later. "What did you say to him?" I asked. He shrugged. He just looked tired, like he hadn't had anything to drink in a while. I figured he needed it more than I did. I smiled. Kids, man. Sometimes they just get it better than we do. I didn't know it then, but that moment was just the beginning of something so much bigger. The next day, when I went to pick Noah up from school, two men in black suits were waiting by the gate. One of them stepped forward. "Excuse me, are you Noah's father?" My heart dropped. Instinctively, I thought something had happened. My brain raced. "Yes," I managed to say. He smiled kindly. "You've been asked to receive this." He handed me an envelope. Inside was a card, simple, formal, almost military in tone. On the front, the emblem of the United States. Inside, it read, "On behalf of the President and a grateful nation, thank you to your son. We would like to speak with you in person." I stared at the card in disbelief. Was this real? Some kind of prank? "This is a joke, right?" I asked. "No, sir," said the second man. "We received a report. Retired Staff Sergeant James Keller was deeply moved by your son's gesture. His story made its way to us, and someone very important wants to meet him." "Someone?" He smiled again. "They're waiting for you at the White House." I sat in the car for a good 5 minutes after the men left, just holding that card in my hand. The seal gleamed in the sunlight, and for some reason, my hands were shaking a little. I kept replaying Noah's small act of kindness in my head. It didn't seem big enough for all of this. That night at dinner, I handed Noah the envelope. He looked confused at first, then opened it slowly. As he read, his eyes widened. "Is this real?" he asked, almost whispering. "It is," I said. "They want us to come to Washington, to meet someone important." He was quiet for a moment. "I just gave him milk," he said. "I know, buddy," I replied. "But sometimes, it's the smallest things that change everything." The flight to Washington was arranged by the government. Everything was taken care of. First-class seats, a black SUV waiting at the airport, a quiet man in a suit who nodded respectfully when we arrived. Noah looked out the window the entire ride, clutching the photo of him and the old man that someone had taken after the moment. It was in the newspaper now. "Boy gives milk to veteran. Nation reacts." That photo went everywhere. People said it reminded them of what kindness looked like. what humanity felt like. In a world of noise, a boy and an old soldier had shared a moment of silence, and the whole world had heard it. When we arrived at the White House gates, Noah whispered, "Do you think he'll be there? The man I gave the milk to?" "I don't know," I said, "but I think today is going to be bigger than we can imagine." Inside, everything felt surreal. We were led through halls lined with portraits and history, into a room with high ceilings and soft light. And then the door opened. He walked in slowly, leaning slightly on a cane. But his eyes were steady, clear, focused. It was him, the man from the bench, the soldier. "Mr. Keller," one of the aides said quietly. He looked at Noah, then at me, then back at Noah. "You probably don't remember me, son," he said, voice trembling, "but I'll remember you for the rest of my life." Noah took a step closer, unsure. "I didn't do much," he said. "You looked thirsty." Keller smiled. "You gave me more than milk. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost. Hope." Mr. Keller sat down slowly on one of the chairs in the room, and Noah sat beside him. I stood near the wall, watching something rare unfold, something honest and still, like time had paused for this exact conversation. "I served 32 years, Keller began, his voice low but steady. 3 tours overseas. I lost more friends than I care to count. And when I came home, I lost myself, too." He looked down for a moment. "I had a wife once, a daughter. She passed away from leukemia. I was overseas when it happened, missed her last words. After that, there wasn't much left in me." The room felt heavy, like every word he spoke carried decades of pain. Noah just listened, quiet, respectful. I didn't speak to anyone for years. I sat on that bench every morning, just staring at her picture, wondering what I'd done to deserve surviving. Keller looked at Noah again. "And then you came along. You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask what I'd done. You just gave, like it was the most natural thing in the world." He smiled, tears shining in his eyes. "You didn't just give me milk, son. You gave me the reason to get up the next day." Noah looked down, fidgeting slightly. "I'm glad you drank it," he said simply. Keller chuckled, a sound that seemed to shake the dust off old memories. "I did. Best damn milk I've ever had." Just then, a woman in a navy suit entered the room. "They're ready now," she said. "Please, come with me." She led us through another hallway, this one even more grand than the last, and at the end of it, a tall white door stood open. Inside, bright lights, flags, and a man in a blue suit standing at the far side of the room. The president. Noah froze for a moment. "That's really him?" he whispered. The president smiled and walked toward us, not with the stiffness of a politician, but with the warmth of someone who had seen the same photo we had, and felt something. "Noah," he said, shaking his hand gently, "you reminded the whole nation what kindness looks like. In a world where people shout to be heard, you whispered, and we listened." He turned to me. "You raised a fine young man, sir." And then, the most surreal part, he knelt down, reached into his coat pocket, and pulled out a small velvet box. "We usually reserve this for soldiers, but today we'd like to make an exception." He opened the box. Inside was a Presidential Medal of Service, custom-made, with Noah's name engraved on the back. Noah looked stunned. I didn't do anything." "Yes, you did," the president said. "You reminded us all what it means to serve, even when you're not in uniform." The flight home felt different. The city looked the same when we landed, The streets still busy, the sky still gray, but we weren't the same. Noah held the medal in his lap the entire ride back from the airport, staring at it as if he still couldn't believe it was real. He wasn't bragging, he didn't post about it online, he just quietly placed the medal on his shelf between a science trophy and a Lego spaceship, like it belonged there all along. But the world had noticed. When we pulled up to his school the next day, a crowd had already gathered. Teachers, students, even the janitor, everyone clapping, cheering, holding handmade signs that read, "Thank you, Noah," and "Kindness Matters." I'll never forget the look on Noah's face, confused, a little embarrassed, but proud. And something else, too, a sense of responsibility. The next few days were a whirlwind. News vans outside our house, letters pouring in, messages from veterans all across the country, parents writing to say their kids had done something kind that day, shared a lunch, helped a neighbor, because of Noah. One night, about a week after our trip, I found him sitting in his room, looking at an envelope in his hands. "It's from Mr. Keller," he said softly. "Do you want me to leave you alone to read it?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, I want you to hear it." He opened the letter. The paper was a little wrinkled, the handwriting neat but slow, like every word had been carefully chosen. "Dear Noah, when you handed me that milk, you didn't just quench my thirst. You reached into a place I thought was gone forever and pulled something back. Dignity. For years, I believed I had no place in this world anymore, that I was forgotten. But you, a child I'd never met, reminded me that even in silence, we matter." After we met, I decided to do something I hadn't done in over 2 decades. I signed up to volunteer. I now spend my mornings helping out at the VA hospital, talking with other veterans. I tell them your story. Some cry. Most smile. All of them remember what hope feels like again. You didn't change just one life, Noah. You set off a chain of kindness that stretches further than either of us can see. Thank you. I salute you. Always, Staff Sergeant James Keller, retired. Noah didn't say anything for a while. He just folded the letter and placed it beside the medal. Then he looked at me. "Can we go visit him sometime?" "Of course," I said. "Anytime." He smiled, and that was it. No fireworks, no marching bands, just a boy, a veteran, and a carton of milk that reminded the world how powerful a single act of kindness can be. Because sometimes, the smallest gesture doesn't just change a day. It changes a life, maybe even a country.